guys seem to be convinced that Pokken 2 is going to come out. Now I don't know why, but that is a topic for a future video. But if Pokken 2 did come out, here is my wish list. This video is going to be unique as far as wish lists go because I assume most people are going to say, I want more Pokemon, I want more stages, I want more supports. I actually don't care about any of that stuff. I think the core gameplay is pretty good and I just like them to fix some of its weak points. So here are the 4 things I would change in Pokken 2. 2 of them are just my preference, but the other 2 are objectively big flaws that Pokken has right now and they really hinder the experience. So let's get into it. Number 1 is the online. This is just one of those straight up flaws that needs a lot of help. Online Pokken is very hard for me to play, but online is the most efficient way to improve at fighting games without spending a lot of money going to sessions. And even then, you can't get character matchups against every single character at the local that you're at, so you gotta get the matchup experience from playing online. I actually have 3 specific issues with Pokken's online. The first is the netcode. Pokken uses an input delay based netcode and the game already has 9 frames of native input delay, which is something else they need to reduce. Make it so that by the time you see something on the screen, it already happened a long time ago. This makes reacting to offensive characters difficult and makes several combos artificially way harder than they need to be. And if your character has strict inputs like just frames and you try to do them visually, doing them online is a nightmare. Coming from a Shadow Mewtwo player, I have to constantly readjust the timing that I do my side strike just frames with, because if I'm timing them visually online and then I go to offline, I'm going to drop them all when I'm switching back and forth. The second problem with the online is related to the first, which is the matchmaking. I cannot tell you how many hundreds, literally hundreds of times I've been searching for an opponent in my group and we're literally the only 2 people searching and we cannot find each other. So I'm talking about the things I would change in Pokken, and one of the things I would change is the group system, because the group system sucks. It sucks, man. I'm like, hey man, I've been searching for this dude in my group and we're the only 2 people searching, and what the heck, man. Like, how could the game possibly not match us up when there's only 2 people searching in the group? That is terrible by itself, but also the matchmaking in ranked has issues. Part of the reason it's so easy to find matches in Pokken is because it doesn't really filter for your rank. If the game can't match you up with someone that is close to your rank quickly, it'll match you up with anyone. Oh snap, B1? Alright, be cool, be cool, be cool. Literally anyone. Like E5s versus S5s. People who just started the game versus people who have played thousands of games online already. And part of the matchmaking problems could be solved by adding filters to online. So a filter that says, I only want to fight people with a certain connection strength to them. So in most games they use bars. Like Tekken, you can be like, oh, I only want to fight a 5-bar connection. Even better, it would be perfect if they added an icon to show if the opponent is wired or if they're on Wi-Fi, so that you could decline a connection before you fight an opponent. Because I know a lot of you motherfuckers stay on Wi-Fi and a lot of you brag about it. Some games already have a Wi-Fi indicator like Injustice 2 and Dead or Alive 6. That's so smart and I deny all of y'all bastards. Also, they should add filters and an indication of when you're playing someone from a different continent or region so you could opt out and decline that match. That's been very helpful in Tekken 7. I pretty much only play players that are in North America. If it shows up anywhere else, I usually just decline it. In Pokken, I hated trying to play ranked, getting matched up with Wi-Fi users from Germany. When I live in the west coast of the United States, that's 5,641 miles away. I ain't playing that crap, man. So that's online. Netcode, matchmaking, and no filtering. Online fighting games can be really fun if they're done right, and I believe in Bandai Namco Studios because Soul Calibur and Tekken have really good online experiences. I think they can do a great job with this in Pokken 2 if it comes out. The second thing I changed is the story, if you can call it a story. There's like one cutscene that they replay like 3 times, if you can even call that a cutscene. The rest of it is just a few dialogues with still images, and in the North American version at least, really bad voice acting.
So you're the rising star, are you? This is your first promotion test, but you don't look all that worried. If you can defeat me, I'll let you move up into C rank. Show me what you can do.
The story mode in fighting games almost always is an afterthought, but depending on the brand and potential demographic, it's still important. Injustice, for example, has an amazing story that I actually bought to play single player only. It had DC superheroes and an engaging plot with great cutscenes that really motivated me to actually mess with and play multiple characters to immerse myself in the storyline. Pokemon is a franchise that transcends gaming. It has a decades-long anime, plushes, movies, and an entire culture built around it. So there are a lot of people that bought the game who have no prior interest in fighting games or the competitive aspect, who just love Pokemon and want to play through single player with some of their favorite Pokemon. But outside of the marathon of battles over and over, there's nothing to collect or explore, no story to keep these people engaged. So yeah, add some sort of story to the next one and give people some sort of a break from the 100+ battles of monotony in the League Cups. There's some potential to expand on the synergy and Gaia power, something that they kind of talked about a little bit, but not that much. You went on some weird side quest for Shadow Mewtwo's Synergy Stone or something, I don't know. Story was kind of whack. Spin-off games don't get mentioned in the main series canon, so they don't have to go overboard making a really deep story, but a fun story can keep casuals playing the game long enough to eventually try online, kind of like how the main series games have been doing today, which a lot of players play through the game so much that they end up just trying Battle Spot and then they get hooked on it. The third thing I would change is the game's pace. We're talking about a Pokemon fighting game. This should be the most exciting thing in the world to watch, but right now, it's not. Pokken is the slowest fighting game that I've ever played. This is something that doesn't get talked about very much, and it is impossible to really quantify how much this affects viewership and player experience, but to me, it is a really big deal. Pokken sets last a long time, and this is especially apparent in team battle mode, and that actually seems to be the biggest complaint with 3v3, that it takes too long. The reason Pokken sets last so long is all the breaks in the action, and some of these breaks stop the timer, which is 80 seconds. There are some fighting games with longer timers, but Pokken sets last longer because that 80 seconds is a lie. So I'll list a bunch of examples so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. At the beginning of each round, you have to pick your support. That's up to 10 seconds. Every single time there's a phase shift, there's a screen freeze. Every time there's a grab, screen freeze. Shift or not, there's a cinematic and a freeze. Support call, screen freeze. Burst activation, screen freeze. Burst attack, screen freeze, and really long cinematic if it's successful. They're way too long. That's what changed, because that attack used to be considered airborne, but now it's not. And then when the pace is finally picking up, leading to the next round, all momentum gets broken when it shows the message of your cheer skill, and then you have to pick your support again. And then when you win a game or lose, it doesn't just reload that stage like other fighting games and put you back into action. It loads up a different stage, so you have to see the versus screen and then the intro screens with the stage name all over again. These are all small things individually, but they add up and really kill the pace of the game. Now, you might find this blasphemous as a Pokken content creator, but I actually don't watch very much Pokken at all. I find the game pretty jarring to watch. There are so many breaks in the action and the pace is so slow. Actually, if you look at my YouTube videos, like some of the ones, especially from like earlier in the year, I cut out the cuts in between the matches. And what I used to do, I would cut out the support select screen. You cut those out from like an hour and 20-minute set. The set is now, it's just an hour. Actually, TPCI does that too with some of their videos. Not all of them, but if you look at some of the sets from like 2016 and CEO and stuff like that, they actually cut out the breaks in between the matches that the game puts in and the support select screen, because they just take up so much time. Again, you can't really quantify how much this element specifically affects viewership, but it's definitely a big reason that I don't watch the game that much. So this is an easy fix. Street Fighter Cross Tekken actually had this similar issue, but they were able to just trim everything down. Basically what you do is you speed everything up, make phase shifts faster, grabs faster, drastically shorten all the cinematics, shorten the screen freezes on the support calls and the burst activations, make everything that's not the actual gameplay and frame data itself faster. The game would be so much more exciting to watch if there were less arbitrary breaks in the action for the players. The last change I would make to Pokken is something that anyone who has ever watched Pokken Basics could have probably guessed, which is my least favorite mechanic of the game, the armor system. The attack triangle, which is that counterattacks beat normal attacks beat grabs, and grabs beat counterattacks, that is fundamental to the design of Pokken, but Pokken does something that several other fighting games do with armor, but for my taste, at least, they implemented it very poorly. If you don't know, armor is the ability to absorb an attack. In Pokken, you have blue armor and you have red armor, and I've talked about that a little bit, but basically you're absorbing attacks. An armored attack, like a counterattack, starts up slower than most normal attacks, but it goes right through it, it beats it outright, and it gets a critical hit, often resulting in a stun or a juggle. So you can wake up with the counterattack and get a full combo if your opponent tried to attack you when you were getting up, or really anytime you have frame disadvantage. And in neutral, you often see players just CADCing because this mechanic almost completely destroys the idea of safely poking at an opponent because you might eat a full combo when you make contact. And there are several command counters which are usually unsafe but not always. Some of them are actually plus on block. And they usually start up very fast, and there are red armored moves. Red armor cannot be grabbed either. The reason armor is so powerful in Pokken is because, unlike other games, they did not add a mechanic to it that lets normal attacks easily bypass it. And it does not cost any resource, so there is literally no reason not to CADC if you have an abusable one like Suicune or Decidueye. And if you're Chandelure and you got a bunch of armor moves, you can armor away to your heart's content. So I'll give you a few examples of how other games deal with reversals. In Street Fighter 4, focus attacks were similar to CADCs, but they only absorbed one hit. So any quick pokes or multi-hitting moves like 100 hands would just straight up bypass it. In Ultra Street Fighter 4, they added red focus, which does not have a hit limit, but it costs 2 bars to use. Got that little timeline shift going in here. You only get 4 bars, and it takes a long time to build up those bars. In Pokken, every character has meterless red focus. That shows how insanely strong the mechanic is. In Tekken 7, armor moves are called power crushes. They have the weakness of being vulnerable to lows and grabs, but that's not the most important weakness. Power crushes in Tekken do not have armor until late in the animation. It varies between around like 5 and 8 frames. Most of them are closer to 8. So if you do a move that's -8 and someone does a move that's 12 frames and a mid, easy to do, like Elisa has like down 4-4. If you're -8 and your opponent does a 12 frame mid, you can't power crush it, you can't duck it, you can't sidestep it, you literally have to block it. And in Pokken, you rarely ever have to block anything. If you're -8, F it, armor away. The risk reward is still really good. So as I'm editing this, I realized I recorded about 10 whole minutes of me talking about why I don't like the armor system, what they need to change, examples from other fighting games. Let me just cut to the chase real quick. Save you guys 10 minutes. I actually think that this is easy to change. Just make all the armor moves like Mewtwo's Barrier, frame 5 armor, or later preferably. You can make them like Garchomp Stone Edge too. I personally think that's a really high reward still in neutral, but it's frame 5. Make the armor moves unsafe or require meter to use. If Pokken 2 ever comes out, that is the biggest change that I would make. Actually, you can disregard all 3 of my other changes. If you make this change, I'll play the game. So those are my 4 changes. Improve the online, including the netcode, matchmaking, and filters. Improve the single player mode, specifically the story, and add maybe something to collect or explore. Speed up the pace of the game, and tone down the armor system. Thank you for watching, and what would you like to see changed or added to Pokken 2? And likely one of the next videos I'm going to make is going to be talking about the possibility of a sequel, so that'll be pretty interesting. And if you guys like this video and you want to see more Pokken content on this channel, consider supporting me by helping me out with the links that are in the description. Thanks for watching. Peace.